planning calendar was our son Zachary's redeployment from Kuwait after being there a year was postponed a week. We were bummed about it, but we knew the Army slogan sometimes is hurry up and wait. But we were ready to see him as well as our grandchildren in Pennsylvania who we hadn't seen in a few months because of the COVID pandemic. Serving 24 years in the U.S. Army, I quickly realized God many times has an alternate plan or purpose for us. Also, the needs of the Army came first, regardless of how many times I requested an assignment to Hawaii. The Army sent me with and without my family to some interesting places, like Tornado Alley in Oklahoma, where we survived a direct hit on Lawton, Oklahoma. Then our first overseas assignment was to the village of Baumholder, known as the Rock. Then we were assigned to the Berlin Brigade, where we traveled through Checkpoint Alpha into East Germany. Then we went through Checkpoint Bravo to the metropolis of West Berlin, with the wall separating us by Checkpoint Charlie into East Berlin. Next, we returned to the States to within a 5-iron shot of the Gold Vault at Fort Knox, Kentucky. A great family assignment after back-to-back battery commands. Then to Seoul, South Korea in '86, and again to Osan in 1993 and '94, both times unaccompanied. And 14 of the 24 years were spent at Fort Bragg, where, being in the Army's Contingency Corps, I was deployed to garden spots like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Haiti. However, we chose to live in our hometown Dunn while assigned to Bragg. We met people from around the world and other cultures that became lifelong friends, and until this day, we can pick up a conversation started 10 or 20 years ago and finish it out. We have eaten foods that don't get served at my mother-in-law's Sunday table or Kim's barbecue and seafood, like spiesbraten, lamb, kgogi, white asparagus, kimchi, brochin, octopus, and some others I can't pronounce. Our family witnessed many places and events while assigned in Europe, like in Munich, home of the Winter Olympics. In Eder Oberstein, we saw a church carved out in a mountain. West Berlin, when we were there, we could walk to the wall from our quarters, and there 7 people were killed trying to escape East Berlin in the 2 years we were there. We traveled to our chapel with our chapel group to Madurodam, Holland. That had been there we witnessed they built a miniature city, and we also visited Anne Frank's home in Amsterdam. And yes, we saw windmills and tulip fields galore. Holland was Carlton's favorite place. We participated in Volks marches most every weekend. We also enjoyed going to see the local forestmeister as a family to cut down our Christmas tree while it was still snowing. We once had Santa came for a visit to check on the children the week before Christmas in Berlin, and we sent Elizabeth to the door knowing that it was one of Santa's helpers. She screamed, slammed the door in his face, and ran and jumped in her bed. We were told in our chapel that we attended in Baumholder on Sundays that we would leave Germany with a clock or a child. We left with both. Zach was born in Landstuhl, Germany. These are lasting memories that we still share and talk about, and realize the changes to assignments had a reason and a purpose. Now let's turn our attention to how Joseph's trip to check on his brothers changed his life and the lives of his family. This is a familiar Bible story, as we have heard the story of Joseph and his coat of many colors. There was a Broadway show in 1999 and a movie version that captured the story in Joseph and the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And it is a tale that follows the journey of a dreamer. Joseph, played by Donny Osmond, is the son of Jacob, one of the 12 brothers. He is given a coat of many colors by his father, which is symbolic of his favor and object of his brother's jealousy. Let's read Genesis 37:12 through 14a. Now his brothers went to the pasture their father's flock near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I'll send you to them." He answered, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see if they are well, everything is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring word back to me." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron. Notice I said Israel instead of Jacob. God had blessed Jacob with a new name and a new identity and a new perspective on life. God does that for us when we commit to following him. Genesis version explains in Joseph's day, everyone had a robe or a cloak. Most were used for warmth, to bundle up belongings on a trip, to wrap a baby, to sit on, or to even serve as a security for a loan. Most robes were knee-length, short sleeve, and plain, in contrast to Joseph's robe that probably was the kind worn by royalty, which was long-sleeved, ankle-length, and very colorful. The robe was a symbol of favoritism toward Joseph, and it aggravated the already strained relations between Joseph and his brothers. Favoritism in families may be unavoidable, but it is a divisive effects should be minimized. Parents may not be able to change their feelings toward a favorite child, but they can change their actions toward the others. Remember, there is a lineage of favoritism and deceit in this family. Isaac and Rebekah, parents of Jacob, and Jacob means the one who grabs or supplants. And Jacob stole Esau's birthright, and Rebekah favored Joseph also. So the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree for this family tree, since it comes to how Jacob treats Joseph. To add insult to injury, Joseph would tell his brothers that he had a dream that he would one day rule over them. This is another situation that fueled the fire of jealousy among his brothers. Joseph's brothers were already angry over the possibility of being ruled by the little brother. Joseph fueled the fire again with his immature attitude and boastful manner. No one enjoys a braggart. Joseph had the mission from his father Isaac to go from Hebron, passing Jerusalem, to Shechem, about 60 miles, and check on his brothers wherever they might be feeding the flock of sheep. When Joseph arrived, they were not there. He had expected to see them, tell them his father had sent him to check on them, and quickly return to Hebron to his father's house to be pampered even more. Now we read in Genesis 37:14b through 24. Joseph went to Shechem, and a man found him wandering in the fields. The man asked him, "What are you seeking?" "I'm seeking my brothers," he said. "Tell me, please, where are they pasturing the flock?" The man said, "They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. They saw him from a distance, and before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. The jealousy had just boiled over by now. They said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him in one of the pits. Then we shall say that a wild animal had devoured him, and that we shall see what will come of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, and Reuben was the oldest brother, he delivered him out of his hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, throw him in the pit here in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, that he might be rescued out of their hand and restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe and the long robe with sleeves that he wore. And he took him and threw him in the pit. The pit was empty. There was no water in it. The lands where they normally had gone were overgrazed by the flocks that had come through there before. The brothers had decided to continue the journey to Dothan and seek grazing lands for the sheep. This made Joseph add to his trip and away from the life he was used to in Hebron. Dothan was located along the major trade route between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River on the way to Egypt. Not only was favoritism and jealousy happen between the brothers, but between differences of opinion what to do with Joseph once he arrived in the camp. They could see Joseph coming before he saw them, so they have time to develop somewhat of a scheme or a plan. I remember during Desert Shield, and ironically enough, today is the 2nd of August, and 30 years ago is when Iraq invaded Kuwait, and so the rest of the story of my lifetime in the military as well as my son's now. But my driver and I wanted to know just how far we could see a figure with the naked eye and without the use of binoculars. We determined while in Saudi Arabia we could see 10 miles away with no problem. Once Desert Storm kicked off and we moved into Iraq, it was different due to the rolling topography and wadis and gullies to see that far. As they saw Joseph approaching, they began to determine a plot to kill him, but dissension in the ranks ran rampant among the brothers as to how they would kill Joseph and how would they explain to their father how it had happened. This was not the first time the brothers had plotted to kill someone. A man named Shechem, same as the town's name, had kidnapped and raped Dinah, their sister, and the brothers vengefully killed not only Shechem, the man, but also the males in that city. Now back to what they have in store for Joseph's fate. Along the trail, shepherds grazed their flocks with were cisterns or pits in the ground designed to catch the rainwater to sustain travelers as well as the flocks. The brothers decided to throw Joseph in the pit instead of killing him immediately upon his arrival. God works in mysterious ways, and in this case, saving Joseph's life for their family situation in years of drought and years to come for the people of Israel in captivity in Egypt. God intervenes. Jealousy had clouded the brothers' judgment. It seemed that Joseph's fate was no concern of theirs, and they didn't consider the feelings of the parents of the younger brother. I guess Reuben, the oldest, grew a conscience after remembering the incident between his father and one of his brother's concubines, and if he didn't agree to have Joseph killed, he might get back in his good graces. God intervened using this to avoid the murder of Joseph. Instead, Reuben devised a plan not to kill Joseph, but to make it look like a wild animal had killed him and almost destroyed the coat of many colors to identify it as Joseph who had been attacked. We read in Genesis 37:25 through 28, "Then they sat down to eat, and looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, and their camels carrying gum, ball, and resin on the way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah, another one of the brothers, what profit it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay a hand on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers agreed. When some Midianites, traders, passed by, they drew Joseph, lifting him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they took him to Joseph to Egypt. Now Judah, another one of the brothers, as they sat around eating and plotting what was going to happen, he said, "Hey guys, let's make some money on this situation and sell our brother to the Ishmaelites or Midianites." It's really not clear who brought or sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver and let him and take him to Egypt. But we know by the time he gets to Egypt, he was sold to Potiphar. And Potiphar, that's another Bible story of how Potiphar was raised in the home or Joseph was raised in the home of Potiphar. The brothers really did not care what happened to Joseph as long as they were rid of him. Unlike how I started this lesson, where the army sent us and we survived and made many family memories, Joseph's assignment to seek out his brothers and check out how they were doing and report back to his father didn't go as he had planned or he had wished. However, since we know the rest of the story, how Joseph becomes an Egyptian leadership's favorite and able to help his people as well as his brothers and fathers, is the way the saying goes, all is well that ends well. Now we fast forward to the next time they meet. Likely the brothers that had sold Joseph were waiting for Joseph's sandal to drop, the other Joseph's sandal to drop, and what he had done for them. Again, God intervened and allowed Joseph to assist his family during the famine and his people to freedom. Joseph had no idea that a journey to find his brothers would result in permanent separation from his homeland. He probably had dreamed, because he was a dreamer, for his future that included a life near his father's tent, marriage, and children. But his brother's action derailed his dreams. The brothers believed they were rid of Joseph for good. Joseph couldn't know that his derailed dreams would become part of God's larger plans. The brothers didn't realize one day their lives would depend on the one who they had tried to take. We should remember that whatever life takes us, wherever life takes us, regardless of whether it was in our plan, God is with us, guiding us for God's purpose. And by the way, we never got an assignment to Hawaii, but through Phyllis's orthodontic career and my jobs after the military, we got to visit Hawaii after all. Let's go to the word and pray. Have a word of prayer. Oh God, when our hopes and dreams get derailed, help us not to lose hope. Help us trust that you are still working on our purposes out and that we have a part in your plans. Help us to trust that even the hard struggles we experience can lead us to a place where we can do the most